And on my lips that I may worthily proclaim your holy gospel. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. A leper came to Jesus and pleaded on his knees. "If you want to," he said, "you can cure me." Feeling sorry for him, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him. "Of course I want to," he said. "Be cured." And the leprosy left him at once, and he was cured. Jesus immediately sent him away and sternly ordered him, "Mind you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest, and make the offering for your healing prescribed by Moses as evidence of your recovery." The man went away, but then started talking about it freely and telling the story everywhere, so that Jesus could no longer go openly into any town, but had to stay outside in places where nobody lived. Even so, people from all around would come to him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
In the words of the Gospel, wipe away all our sins. Now we've moved right on into the first book of Samuel, and we see the Philistines defeat the Israelites, despite the fact that they summoned the Ark of the Covenant to come and be present with them. And the Ark of the Covenant is symbolic indeed in the history of the Israelites of bringing about victory for Joshua and his armies, and so many other battles and conquests that the Israelites faced as they were conquering and taking possession of the promised land. And yet here it seems as if the Lord has let them down, and they've been defeated, and even the ark itself was captured, and the sons of Eli both killed. Where was God when all this was going on, or when all this was happening? It doesn't expand much further for us today to try to understand what's at work there, but it may well be that the Israelites had put false hopes in God, and maybe not enough in what the gifts and blessings God had given them to overcome their enemies. It's a bit like, as a priest, for instance, if I were to be bringing the Blessed Sacrament to someone, say on a sick call, and because I'm carrying Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, I think that I'm invincible, because God is with me, the Lord is there, He's with me, and that I can do whatever I want. I can drive recklessly or whatever. In other words, that if I disregard whom it is I'm serving, and whose grace and blessing on, from one moment to the next on which I survive, and I seek to do it on my own power, then obviously God will say, well, good luck with that. So our religion, our faith is not a superstitious thing. It's not, faith is so very different from that. It's not a magic formula or something that there's sort of guarantees. That if I have enough faith, I can write any lottery numbers down. The Lord wouldn't be answering that prayer anytime soon anyway, so forget about that. But hopefully you understand the idea that our faith is not based on a kind of good luck thing, or if I do X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C, then bottom line, all my prayers answered and solved. That God is at my beck and call. Absolutely not. That's not how our faith, that's not how God works. And perhaps this is what lies behind the story here, and it's a very potent lesson for the Israelites, as much as for the Philistines too, in their pride. They refused to serve the God of Israel or become slaves to the Hebrews. Somehow God allows it, in the same way that God allowed Jesus, his son, to be put to death. And you would say, well, he is God. He could have prevented all of this quite easily, and so he could. And yet no, because in his death and in the defeat of the Israelites and in our defeats, we are humbled and humiliated and forced onto our knees, like the leper in the gospel. We were forced to come before the Lord and say, I cannot do this. In the reading we had last week, the leper fell prostrate before the Lord. At any rate, he was there before him, lowering himself and beseeching a healing. And our role, our journey is the very same. Without that element of humility and acceptance of God's will, even in defeat, even in the face of sickness, what does our faith really mean then? Again, it's not a box-ticking exercise. It's not a formula that we simply recite and we get an answer, pull the handle, and out comes the result. That's not our faith at all. So what the Lord demands of the leper is to go to the priest to fulfill the obligations of the law, to do his duty according to what his faith and the faith of the people demanded. And partly too, I'm sure, to keep the crowds away from him, which, as we see in the end, they tend to mob the Lord, and all those who come to him in faith, certainly he answers and heals and cures too. But it just kind of upset his ministry and be able to go into the towns to be able to preach there. An inevitable, perhaps, outcome, you might have said too. However, our approach is that of the leper, that we are greatly in need of God's mercy, greatly in need of his grace and his healing touch, and we come in a spirit of humility, not in a state of demanding or insisting or sort of expectation at a human level. It's always submission to that divine authority. And of course, the Lord wants to heal, he wants to transform, he wants to be there for us, to touch us and draw us closer to his divine life.